We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
More than 54,000 people were moved to safer ground in the Philippine capital and nearby provinces as monsoon rains triggered floods in the country.
North and South Korea agree to hold a summit in Pyongyang in September after high-level talks in the demilitarized zone.
The death toll from the earthquake that hit the Indonesian island of Lombok passes 430.
And hundreds have been injured, 5 of them seriously, after part of a wooden promenade collapsed at a music festival in Spain.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. More than 54,000 people were moved to safer grounds in the Philippine capital and nearby provinces as monsoon rains triggered floods in the country. Marikina City implemented forced evacuations affecting at least 21,000 people after its river, the catch basin of water flowing from the mountains, reached critical level in nearby province. 19,000 people were moved. Meanwhile, the water level of the Marikina River has gone down. The warning has been downgraded to first alarm. Train services were halted, schools were shut. Pagasa said a tropical storm and another weather disturbance outside the country are enhancing the southwest monsoon, bringing widespread rain over the main Luzon island, including Metro Manila. The rain will continue today.
Some local government units have already announced suspension of classes for Tuesday, August 14, in their areas due to non-stop rains and floods brought about by a southwest monsoon. Classes in all levels are both public and private schools have been suspended in Marikina o Metro Manila, Marikina City, Central Luzon, Balagtas, Bulacan, Bukawi, Bulacan, Bulacan, Kalumpit, Hagonoy, Giginto, Malolos, Marilao, Maykawayan, Paumbong, Bulacan, and Guagua, Pampanga. In Ilocos Region, Bugalyon, Pangasinan, Lingayen, Pangasinan. Meanwhile, classes have been suspended in Santo Tomas, Pampanga until Wednesday, August 15, due to widespread flooding in the area. The concerned LGUs have announced the class suspensions through the official social media accounts of their public information offices.
Meanwhile, Malacanang urged the public to be alert and safe amid flooding in the country brought about by the southwest monsoon. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque urged Filipinos living in flooded areas to remain in evacuation centers and be prepared, evacuation centers prepared by local government units or LGUs. He also assured that all concerned government agencies are coordinating to address concerns of residents affected by the rains and floods.
Tuloy po ang aming pagpapaalala sa publiko na maging alerto at ligtas. Mamayang hapon ay personal na titignan ng Pangulo ang mga binahang lugar sa Metro Manila. Kanyang ipinag-utos sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno na paintingin ang mga serbisyo sa mga naapektuhan at siguraduhin ang kaligtasan ng lahat. According to the most recent update from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, a consolidation of the effects of habagat enhanced by tropical cyclones Henry, Inday, Josie, and Carding as of 6 a.m. today, August 13, 978 areas have experienced flooding in regions 1, 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 6, 10, CAR, and NCR, of which floodwaters in 778 areas have already subsided. As of this morning, a total of 133,812,308 worth of assistance was provided by the Office of Civil Defense, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Department of Health, local government units, and non-government organizations with affected families in Regions 1, 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 6, NCR, and CAR. Ito ang panahon ng pagkakaisa at bayanihan. Lubos kaming nagpapasalamat sa lahat sa patuloy na pagkakaabot ng tulong sa ating mga kababayan.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources will suspend quarrying operations in Rizal as it may be one of the causes of flooding in Marikina. Marikina City and the municipality of Taytay are known to be low-lying areas and are prone to flooding. Environment Secretary Benny Antiporda ordered the Mines and Geosciences Bureau and Environmental Management Bureau to issue a joint stoppage order on the quarrying and crushing of plants in San Mateo and Rodriguez Rizal, according to the release. Meanwhile, the DANR will conduct an investigation of the possible role of quarrying in the flooding of Marikina. Go, in a phone call, had asked Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Reyzi Matu to check on how quarrying in Rizal contributed to the recent flooding in Marikina City and Rizal. Go also assured the flood victims that the Duterte administration's sympathy is with them and the government will extend assistance to them.
Nakakalungkot na makitang marami na biktima, ngunit pinaka-importante po na wala hong nasaktan at walang namatay. Yun po yung pinakamahalaga. Pangalawa naman po, yung kagamitan at paano po sila makabalik sa normal nilang buhay. Opo, in my private capacity po, may mga kaibigan po akong tumulong ng mga relief goods dito at bukas po yung mat para meron silang medyo maayos naman po na higaan. Pero sa karton lang, nakakaawa naman, lalong-lalo na yung mga bata na nakahiga lang dyan at malamig yung sahig. Isa po ito sa aking itatalakay kay Secretary Villar bukas po at kayo na po yung pangatlong lugar na nagsangguni sa akin tungkol dito sa dredging ito. Ito rin panahon ng baha o may mga monsoon waves po, ay handa po akong tumulong at bukas po ang tanggapan namin, tanggapan ni Pangulong Duterte. Kasi po, trabaho po namin yan.
All right, we'll take a short break. Eagle News International will be right back.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant
North and South Korea agreed to hold a summit in Pyongyang in September after high-level talks in the demilitarized zone that divides the peninsula. A trip by the South's President Moon Jae-in to the North's capital would be the first such visit for more than a decade, as the diplomatic thaw on and around the peninsula builds. But despite their approachment, international sanctions against the North for its nuclear and missile programs have kept economic cooperation between the two Koreas from taking off, while little progress has been made on the key issue of Pyongyang's denuclearization. At the historic first summit between Moon and the North's leader Kim Jong-un in Panmunjom in April, they agreed the South's president would visit Pyongyang during the autumn. The South's presidential office suggested that the summit would probably be held after the 70th anniversary of the North's foundation on September 9. The rapid rapprochement between the two neighbors began this year ahead of the Winter Olympics in the South and paved the way for a landmark meeting between Kim and U.S. President Trump in Singapore in June. Cross-border exchanges between the two Koreas have significantly increased since then. Neighbors plan to hold reunions for war-separated families next week for the first time in 3 years.
A 12-year-old boy is the sole survivor of a plane crash that killed 8 people in mountainous eastern Indonesia, authorities say. The Swiss-made Pilatus aircraft lost contact with the air traffic control Saturday during what was supposed to be a flight of around 40 minutes in remote Papua province. The wreckage of the plane was found in a heavily forested area on a mountainside in the Oksibil sub-district on Sunday morning. The plane, which was owned by private charter company Demonim Air, was carrying 7 passengers and 2 crew. Before the accident, villagers in nearby Ukatem reported hearing a loud roar followed by an explosion. Search and rescue teams walked 2 hours to reach the crash site and were still recovering the bodies late morning. Indonesia relies heavily on air transport to connect its thousands of islands, but has a poor aviation safety record and has suffered several fatal crashes in recent years. Papua is a particularly difficult area to reach.
Meanwhile, the powerful earthquakes that struck the Indonesian island of Lombok in recent weeks, killing some 430 people, have sent holidaymakers fleeing, raising questions about how its lucrative tourism sector will bounce back. The number was likely to rise as teams continue to search for victims beneath the rubble and ruins of buildings. 2 deadly tremors a week apart, accompanied by dozens of aftershocks, wrought widespread damage on homes and livelihoods, striking during the crucial tourism season, when hotels, local businesses, and seasonal workers earn the bulk of their annual revenue. In the Gili Islands, a popular backpacker and diving destination just off Lombok's northern coast, thousands of terrified tourists jostled on powder-white beaches for departing boats.
The 3 island is the best place, good for everything, very safe and good for snorkeling, good for everything, yeah? So that's why tourists come here and then go to Lombok. If this island is not open, tourists cannot come to Lombok.
Yes, in December we had a volcano. Then just before the earthquakes we had big waves, so there were also 2 weeks almost no tourists here on the island. And then we have the earthquakes now for more than a week. Yes, so for us it's a nightmare, but we will survive. Everyone hopefully will survive.
We didn't want to leave because we knew that there was a lot of panic and only small resources to help the people that really needed it. And we're very comfortable in the outdoors, and we've both lived without water, running water, and without power before, so we knew we would be fine. We had a plan in place in case there was a tsunami. We're both rock climbers, so we had a system set up to make us as safe as possible. Aside from the constant fear with the aftershocks, we were very comfortable.
Thousands took part Sunday in a third night of protests in Bucharest against alleged government corruption, 2 days after a crackdown on a mass demonstration left hundreds injured. Singing the national anthem and waving Romanian flags, protesters again amassed at a Victory Square outside government headquarters in the capital. They're accusing the left-wing government of corruption and urging it to resign. Police came in for criticism from the center-right opposition for using water cannon and tear gas on Friday to disperse protesters. More than 450 people, including 30 police, were hurt and around 30 arrested. Police have denied using excessive force, saying officers had responded to violence allegedly perpetrated by dozens of protesters in a gradual and proportionate manner. Many of those protesting were Romanians who have left the country to live abroad.
Ei trăiesc în palate de cleștar, ei trăiesc bazându-se doar pe minciună, pe corupție și având impresia că suntem un popor ușor manipulabil. Nu suntem ușor manipulabili, suntem doar prea plânzi.
Am fost șocat de ce s-a întâmplat, am fost și ieri în piață, am plecat exact înainte de debutul incidentelor și am văzut la televizor s-a întâmplat și asta cred că ne răiește și mai rău. Așa ceva nu se poate.
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated
Panic erupted at a packed music festival in Spain when a section of a wooden promenade suddenly collapsed, injuring more than 300 people, including 9 seriously. The seafront platform, which was 30 meters long by 10 meters wide, was jammed with people watching a rap artist in the northwestern city of Vigo, when it suddenly caved in just before midnight on Sunday, according to local mayor Abel Caballero. The promenade collapse happened as Mallorcan rap artist Rels B was performing as part of the 2-day O Marisquino Festival in Vigo, a city of around 300,000 people. The mayor said it was not clear what caused the collapse of the promenade, which was built in the 1990s.
Derrumbamiento severo de una parte íntegra de muelle que seguramente estaba pilotado. Una superficie importante de 30 metros de largo por 10 de ancho, se hundió. Bueno, las causas ya se verán, ¿no? Por lo que nos dicen desde los hospitales, y todo muy provisional en este momento porque las noticias no fluyeron aún, estamos más dedicados a ello, hay un número de ellos al parecer graves, los datos provisionales, que son muy provisionales, y tómense con toda la cautela porque es lo que me va transmitiendo la policía, habla de 4 personas heridas graves.
However, local daily El Faro de Vigo said it happened shortly after Spanish rap artist Rels B told the crowd to jump at the start of his concert. Witnesses told Spanish media that people struggled to scramble for safety from under the debris of the structure.
Estábamos muchísima gente en el paseo de madera y se escuchó un crujido y de repente cayó todo. Y nos encontramos entre la madera y el cemento nos cubría la cabeza y veíamos que toda la gente intentaba salir, pero nadie conseguía salir y la gente gritando, y al final, bueno, por suerte salimos bien.
A total of 316 people were injured, including 9 seriously, according to the regional government of Galicia, where Vigo is located. An earlier estimate had placed the number of wounded at 266.
Malacanang said President Duterte fired 20 people, including colonels and general, over accusations of fraud and graft in purchases of military medical supplies at the V. Luna Medical Center in Quezon City. Those sacked were accused of involvement in 17 cases of bogus purchases of supplies, drugs, and equipment at inflated prices. Duterte was personally aggravated and angered, having recently ordered that 50 million pesos be made available to the main military hospital where the offenses took place.
It was brought to the President's attention that alleged corruption activities have been taking place at the V. Luna Medical Center. The President has since read the reports of the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission and the Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff, General Carlito Galvez. Based on the report, several high-ranking officials and employees of V. Luna Medical Center, Health Service Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines undertook anomalous purchases of equipment and engaged in fraudulent transactions, including ghost purchasing, splitting of contracts to circumvent mandatory bidding processes, and conceiving fictitious suppliers. President Duterte has ordered the relief and court-martial proceedings against the top military brass, which includes Brigadier General Edwin Leo Torrela Vega, Commander of the AFP Health Service Command, Colonel Antonio Punzalan, Commander of the V. Luna Medical Center, Chiefs of Management and Fiscal Office, and the Logistics Office of the AFP HSC, among others. The Chief of Staff, General Carlito Galvez, has also said that he will immediately relieve General Torrela Vega and Colonel Punzalan immediately and will convene court-martial proceedings against them without prejudice to the investigation to be conducted by the Ombudsman for the military.
President Duterte has repeatedly said that he will not think twice about sacking officials involved in even a whiff of corruption.
President Duterte is to make an official visit to Israel next month, his government said Monday, nearly 2 years after he sparked outrage by likening his deadly drug war to the Holocaust. Now, the September 2 to 5 trip will be the first by a Filipino leader since diplomatic ties were established between the two countries in 1967. Duterte and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will discuss how to develop ties on issues including security and counterterrorism, according to the statement. Israel has been a key weapon supplier to the Philippines, which is fighting Islamic militants as well as communist guerrillas. An Israeli firm supplied the thermal imaging system for an armored military unit that killed the top leader of Islamic State group-linked militants who seized the southern city of Marawi last year.
Nine people were killed and 30 injured in a blaze that broke out early Monday at a hospice for the terminally ill near Taiwan's capital, Taipei. All of the 44 people inside, including 33 patients, were evacuated after the fire started at the hospice on the 7th floor of a 9-story government hospital in New Taipei City. 16 patients had cardiac arrests and 7 were revived. Another 9 died with the cause of death given as smoke inhalation, according to the local fire department. New Taipei Fire Department official Hong Liangqian told reporters on initial probe showed that the fire was likely caused by the short circuit of an electrical device. Premier William Lai apologized to the public and gave his condolences over the tragedy.
Police sprayed tear gas to disperse a group of counter-protesters, many identifying as anti-fascists in Washington, D.C., as white supremacists rallied in front of the White House on the 1-year anniversary of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Activists hurled rocks and bottles during a rally in the U.S. city of Portland, Oregon, organized by 2 far-right groups that drew a counter-protest, according to police, which ordered demonstrators to leave not long after the marches got underway. Police in the western state of Oregon's largest city had also maintained a heavy presence during the dueling demonstrations, which had raised fears of a replay of last year's Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia, that ended in bloodshed. The projectiles were thrown at officers, according to police, who ordered those in the area to immediately disperse, warning failure to comply with this order may subject you, quote, may subject you to arrest or citation and may be subject you to the use of riot control agents or impact weapons. Footage of the rallies that drew hundreds showed plumes of smoke rising in the city of about 640,000 people. Portland police later said protest officers seized firework mortars, while some activists of the left accused police of shooting stun grenades.
In the recent elections in the U.S., Hawaii has maintained the notorious reputation of having the lowest voter turnout in the nation. This is why the Aloha States has finally allowed same-day registration and voting to encourage more civic participation. Mio Asenas, our EBC Hawaii correspondent and first-time voter, shares her first-hand experience with the report.
Today is primary election in Hawaii, and this is one of several hundred polling places located throughout the state. Majority of voting stations were set up throughout Hawaii's public schools. Polls were opened between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time. Primary elections take place to allow political parties to select their leading candidates for the U.S. general election, currently scheduled on Tuesday, November 6. Even though there's no presidential election this year, there are a lot of high-profile races and referendums in many U.S. states and territories. In Hawaii, for example, the current governor, David Ige, is in his toughest political challenge yet, going against U.S. Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa while redeeming himself from Hawaii's false missile alert last January. Because Hanabusa has given up her seat in the U.S. Congress, up to 7 contenders seized the chance to hold office at the national level. Familiar names included Lieutenant Governor Doug Chin, State Senator Donna Mercado Kim, and City Council Chairman Ernie Martin. Ken Fukumoto, father of congressional candidate Beth Fukumoto, briefly shares his experience on the campaign trail.
It's really hectic. It's not like when she ran for the state, it was just up here. Now we have to go all over the place, all the way to Hawaii Kai, Kapolei, and beyond, So it's been really hectic, but I believe in my daughter. I know she can do it.
According to Hawaii's Office of Elections, the 2016 primary election resulted in a record low in turnout, with just 35% of registered voters coming out to cast their ballots. For the first time this year, eligible U.S. citizens were able to register and vote on the same day. Still, there are lingering concerns that Hawaii's votes are not worth much on the national stage, especially in presidential elections.
Yeah, I just read in the paper where, they're not predicting a good turnout. It'll be low again like last year. And last year we were in the 50 states, we're at the bottom for the primary, yeah? So it was about 30-something%, but hopefully this year will be better.
In that it seems like voter turnout is on the low side today, but that's just a subjective comment on my part. I would like to encourage everybody to vote, whether it's this election or in the next one or in the years ahead, because we can't make change unless we get out there and vote, and everyone thinks that their one vote doesn't count, but it really does. It's our civic duty to try to get the best candidate in, and in the end, we're the benefactors. Thank you.
A volunteer who requested to be anonymous because of a conflict with his official capacity tries to elaborate on Hawaii's apparent lack of participation in the election process.
The biggest problem with Hawaii in terms of voter turnout, too, is that the vast majority is Democratic, and that is resolved in the primary, and people just don't seem to care as much as the other states. But the second thing that factors is that Hawaii is the last state to ever vote. So in a presidential election, the votes are, we know who's going to win before people end up voting here 6 hours early. So those two things are factors.
At the end of the day, Governor Ige won the opportunity for re-election as he narrowly defeated Congresswoman Hanabusa. He will face Republican State Representative Andrea Tupola in November. Reporting from Mililani, Hawaii, I'm Mio Asenas for Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
As part of the celebrations of the 104th anniversary of the Iglesia Ni Cristo worldwide and its 50th anniversary in the West, members of the Church of Christ took part in a blood donor campaign in Qatar. Our EBC correspondent from the Middle East, Dwayne Dizon, reports from Qatar.
The members of the Church of Christ have recently gathered to participate in the blood donation program held at the Hamad Blood Donor Center here in Doha, Qatar. The civic campaign was facilitated by the blood donation unit of Hamad Medical Corporation, which is the leading healthcare provider in the state of Qatar. Some 828 members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo have participated in the blood donation campaign, which is part of the wider INC Giving altruistic program of the religious organization. According to Mr. Edwin Ileto, one of the organizers of the event, it is fulfilling to see how the members of the church earnestly partook in the civic activity of donating blood to the needy. He also mentioned that the blood donation drive was held on 2 consecutive weekends due to the abundance of donors who showed up to participate. The Iglesia Ni Cristo in Qatar expressed their gratitude to the administration of Hamad Medical Corporation for acknowledging the church's highly organized campaign, as well as for giving out a certificate of appreciation. According to the World Health Organization, safe blood saves lives and improves health. Blood transfusion is needed for women with complications of pregnancy, children with severe anemia,
people with severe trauma, and many complex medical and surgical procedures and cancer patients. The benefits of donating blood include balancing iron levels in the body, helps in maintaining a good blood and heart condition, lowers the risk of cancer, sheds excess calories in the body, and gives an opportunity for a new blood count analysis. From Eagle News Qatar Bureau, this is Dwayne Dizon, and we are one with 25.
Thank you, Dwayne. Eagle News International will be right back.
The leaders of the 5 states bordering the Caspian Sea signed a landmark deal on its legal status in the Kazakh city of Aktau, easing regional tensions. Russian, Iran, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, all bordering the Caspian Sea, have agreed in principle on how to divide it up. Their leaders signed the Convention on the Legal Status of the Caspian Sea in the Kazakh city of Aktau on Sunday. It establishes a formula for dividing up its resources and prevents other powers from setting up a military presence there.
Уважаемые коллеги, я хочу поздравить
Азербайджанской республики Ильхам Алиев, президент президент Российской Федерации Владимир Путин.
Это международный договор, который содержит детальный и объемный свод правил и обязательств по использованию и сохранению нашего общего достояния Каспийского моря.
Meanwhile, the Caspian is the largest inland body of water in the world, with around 70,000 cubic kilometers of water. It's bigger by volume than both the North and Baltic Seas. It's highly prized for its vast oil and gas reserves. It's estimated there are 50 billion barrels of oil and nearly 300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas beneath its seabed. That's why disagreements over how to divide some of its huge oil and gas fields have been numerous and acrimonious. On occasion, warships have been deployed to scare off contractors hired by rival countries. As home to the world's largest stocks of the giant beluga sturgeon fish, the Caspian is also an important source of one of the world's priciest delicacies, the caviar. The most expensive Caspian caviar comes from the eggs of the rare albino sturgeon found in its southern waters. But environmental campaigners warn that sturgeon stocks are being overfished. According to Guinness World Records, a kilogram of the costliest caviar from albino sturgeon off the coast of Iran regularly fetches over $25,000. Turkey implemented an economic action plan. The nation's currency has plunged from one record low to another, including today during early Asia trading. Finance Minister Berat Albayrak said the new measures are designed to ease investor concern without giving details on what they will be. Now, Turkey vows to defy U.S. threats over a detained American pastor, with experts fearing the row in bilateral ties could deepen between the two NATO allies. Relations between the two NATO allies have sunk to their lowest point in decades over a string of issues, including the detention of U.S. pastor Andrew Brunson on terror-related charges, prompting the Turkish lira to hit record lows against the dollar. Now, President Trump doubled U.S. tariffs on Turkish steel and aluminum, saying U.S. relations with Turkey are not good at this time. The reaction from global currency markets caused the euro to slump to a 13-month low and push the dollar to a one-year high. But President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hit back at U.S. threats over the detained American pastor.
Kardeşlerim, adaletin gereği neyse onu yaparız. Ve bugüne kadar adaletten taviz, buradaki bir rahiple ilgili olarak kalkıp da Türkiye'yi tehditle yola getirmeye çalışmak yanlıştır.
NASA blasts off a $1.5 billion spacecraft towards the sun on a historic mission to protect the Earth by unveiling the mysteries of dangerous solar storms. The unmanned spacecraft aims to get closer than any human-made object in history to the center of our solar system. The probe is designed to plunge into the sun's atmosphere, known as the corona, during a 7-year mission. It is protected by an ultra-powerful heat shield that can endure unprecedented levels of heat and radiation 500 times that experienced on Earth. The probe is guarded by an ultra-powerful heat shield that is just 4.5 inches thick, enabling the spacecraft to survive its close shave with the fiery star. Even in a region where temperatures can reach more than 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the sunlight is expected to heat the shield to just around 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, or that's 1,371 degrees Celsius. It all works as planned. The inside of the spacecraft should stay at just 85 degrees Fahrenheit. The goal for the Parker Solar Probe is to make 24 passes through the corona during its 7-year mission.
I'm anticipating that the results will turn up basic information on why the corona of the sun is at 1,000,000 degrees. That accounts for the acceleration of the solar wind. I'm just waiting for the data now, and the experts can get busy and sort it out, because there's an awful lot of data coming in, or will be a lot of data coming in. All I can say is, wow, here we go. We're in for some learning over the next several years.
Scientists hope that the mission will answer crucial questions concerning space weather. Why is the corona hotter than the sun's surface? And how is the solar wind accelerated? This will help forecast changes in the space environment that affect technology on Earth. Satellite communications, power grid problems, pipeline erosion, radiation exposure on airline flights, and astronaut safety. The mission is expected to last until 2025.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence announced the Pentagon's plan for President Trump's vision of a space force known as U.S. Space Command, and for it to be in operation by 2020. Take a look.
In his inaugural address to the nation, President Trump proclaimed that the United States stands, in his words, at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space. And since day one of our administration, this president has kept his promise to restore America's proud legacy of leadership in space. Now the time has come to write the next great chapter in the history of our armed forces. The time has come to establish the United States Space Force. America will always seek peace in space as on the earth, but history proves that peace only comes through strength. And in the realm of outer space, the United States Space Force will be that strength in the years ahead. I want to assure all of you who will be called to this enterprise, you can be confident that you will go with the prayers of millions of Americans who will claim on your behalf those ancient words that if you rise on the wings of the dawn, if you settle on the far side of the sea, even if you go up to the heavens, even there his hand will guide you. His right hand will hold you fast, and he will hold fast this great nation in the great beyond.
Expect rains to persist in parts of the country in the next few days. This is according to State Bureau Pagasa, which announced that a new low-pressure area outside the Philippine area of responsibility would continue to enhance the southwest monsoon. In its recent advisory, Pagasa said the enhanced habagat brought about by the LPA located 925 kilometers east-northeast of Basco, Batanes will bring scattered to widespread monsoon rains over Metro Manila, Ilocos Region, Cordillera Administrative Region, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and the Mindoro provinces. Pagasa said residents of these areas, especially those living near river channels, in low-lying areas, and in mountainous areas, are still advised to take appropriate actions against possible flooding and landslide, according with local DRMM offices, and continue monitoring for updates.
The Hawaiian town of Ewa Beach played an important part for the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, in its religious movement overseas that began on July 27, 1968. Likewise, this now sprawling suburban community in West Oahu already had a rich history of its own, dating all the way back to the 19th century. EBC Hawaii correspondent Alfred Acenas has this special feature.
Just like the pineapple, the sugar cane would play a pivotal role in shaping Hawaii's economy for more than a century, as it changed from a basic subsistence agriculture to a more complex commodity-based system with the intent to satisfy demands for all things sweet on a global scale.
Sugar would alter the landscapes of the western side of Oahu Island, with large areas of cane plantings along with the construction of sugar mills to process crops. Nearby towns would soon flourish, namely Waipahu and Eva.
Historic Eva villages on West Oahu is a remnant of the once prosperous Eva Plantation Company and thriving Eva Plantation town. Established in 1890, it had an exemplary health and social services that they provided for all the workers.
The Eva Plantation Company was incorporated in 1890 with about 11,000 acres of land, roughly 4,400 hectares. This new entity would soon form a critical business partnership with the Oahu Railway System in delivering large amounts of harvest throughout Hawaii and beyond.
Approximately 30 miles or roughly 48 kilometers of railroad track serviced the plantation. Sugar from the mill was conveyed by the Oahu Railway and Land Company to Honolulu Harbor for shipping to the continental U.S. and worldwide.
They were no different than a big railroad on the mainland back then. They hauled freight, passengers, you name it, they hauled it. One of the things they did bring was the processed sugar. A lot of people always say it's a sugarcane train. It's not. The Oahu Railway never hauled sugarcane. That would have been the plantation railroads, whether it was the Eva Plantation, Waialua.
Now, because of the proximity to Pearl Harbor, the Eva plantations were not immune to the collateral damage of machine gun fire and anti-aircraft shells brought about during the Japanese attacks on December 7, 1941. With America entering World War II, the U.S. Army took possession of over 500,000 acres, roughly about 2,000 square kilometers of farmlands to be converted to training camps and storage facilities, some of which are still in use to this day.
A booming sugar industry obviously meant more workers in the farmlands. The importation of labor from countries in Asia, Europe, and the Americas would become the main reason for the multi-ethnic makeup of Hawaii's current population. One of those countries was the Philippines, and its migrant workers would become known as Sakadas.
The Sakadas, who were early plantation laborers who immigrated to Hawaii between 1906 and 1946, worked extremely hard to give their families better lives. And as a result, many of their descendants and children had gone on to attain higher education, gaining their bachelor's, their master's, their PhDs, and now working professionals across the state of Hawaii. Some being very visible in government, in education, in healthcare, and across many sectors.
One of those sectors included propagating their spiritual beliefs and convictions to other Filipinos and even non-Filipinos, especially around the gathering place that is Oahu Island.
More specifically, it involved some migrant workers and their families right here in Eva, who would soon discover that they had something unique in common: their membership in a small yet growing religious organization known as the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ. From that moment on, they would lay the foundation for something bigger, much bigger, in the days and years to come. Reporting from Eva Beach, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Acenas for Eagle News, 1 with 25. Mahalo for watching.
Thank you, Alfred.
Thank you, Alfred. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and
we're 1 with 25.